government successfully fends off the vote. Naru says rule of law has to be allowed. And Basil delivers a scathing attack on the government.
This is National EMTV News with Lorraine Gabina.
Good evening and thank you for joining me for Friday's news. The vote of no confidence has been defeated with an overwhelming 85 to 21 votes in favor of Peter O'Neill in today's special parliament sitting. The opposition came in knowing they didn't have the numbers to win but used the opportunity to air their frustrations against the Prime Minister. At the end of the session, the opposition left disappointed not only at losing the vote but in what they claim as suppression to fully debate the motion.
The government did what they promised, hold together and defeat the vote of no confidence. However, before the vote was taken, there was over an hour of heated debate.
Because it's very important.
The question was put, honourable member.
National issues on the floor of Parliament.
I will not entertain any more point of orders, unfortunately.
Keeping with the specifics of the court order, the Speaker allowed debate before the vote was taken. Deputy Opposition Leader Sam Basil, as sponsor of the motion, outlined the opposition's reasons for the motion.
The Prime Minister's short-sighted and reckless fiscal practices have destroyed that growth.
And then Morobe Governor Kelly Naru, who had declared allegiance to the rule of law during the week of lobbying, outlined his legal reasons for siding with the government.
Justice must and will prevail in the end. Based on the requirement of legal justice according to law, the Prime Minister must be given the benefit of the doubt.
Then Ben Micah talked about telling the truth.
The issue of truth. The issue of truth. One of something and true plus something.
From the government, Leader of Government Business James Marape was the only one who formally spoke during the debate.
Mr. Speaker, we have a motion before us that has nothing to do with the advancement of our country, but has everything to do with the ugly side, the lustful side of an attempt to grab power, period, nothing else. When we returned to review the Alotau Code, in the last few days in retreat in Alotau, our public servants came to us and told us 90% of the Alotau Code commitments has been achieved.
It was after this that the Speaker stopped debate and moved to take the vote. This did not go down well with the opposition.
Remember, the question is that the question be put. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, there is a court order and you prayed this morning. You made it very clear.
I have.
You made it very clear. It's a court order. We got to debate properly.
This led to a shouting match that forced the Speaker to invoke the parliamentary standing orders to bring order to the floor of Parliament.
When the Speaker rises, everybody should sit.
The vote was taken after that, with the government coming out victorious.
Those in favour of the motion were 21, and those against the motion was 85.
Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
No confidence in the Prime Minister.
The government wants a thorough judicial interpretation of the separation of powers between the National Executive Council, the legislature and the judiciary. Morobe Governor Kelly Naru said according to the Constitution, the courts have no power to interfere with the way Parliament conducts its business. In his view, the recent orders by the Supreme Court has brought to light the need for proper judicial interpretation to be given to the principle of separation of powers.
When debating the motion of the vote of no confidence, Morobe Governor Kelly Naru said there were serious constitutional issues regarding the notion of the principle of the separation of powers.
In my humble submission and view, recent events and orders emanating from the Supreme Court has brought to light the need for proper judicial interpretation to be given to the principle of separation of powers.
He asked for specific interpretations regarding the principle of the separation of powers between the three arms of government.
Some pertinent issues that need judicial interpretation are as follows. Can the Supreme Court issue declaratory orders and directions to Parliament to get Parliament to conduct its business in a particular day according to a certain agenda and within a specified period of time? Are the nature and extent of the orders of the Supreme Court ordering the reconvening of Parliament for this special sitting a violation of the principle of separation of powers, in that it is an interference with the way in which Parliament is supposed to manage and conduct its business?
He said under the principle of the separation of powers, there is a requirement and need for mutual respect to be maintained at all times between the three arms of government. Deli Waigeno, National, EMTV News.
Vote of no confidence mover and Deputy Opposition Leader Sam Basil opened the debate and gave his reasons on the floor as to why Prime Minister Peter O'Neill should be replaced. Basil outlined major issues covering Parliament processes, handling of the economy, debates on the 2016 budget, the ICAC bill and the gun summit, among others. In his series of points, Basil attacked the Prime Minister over LNG issues, LNG revenue and the allegations leveled against him.
After months of getting this motion into place, it happened on the floor of Parliament today. Much of the debate has happened outside of the Parliament House. However, the opposition had a lot to say on the floor of Parliament.
Parliament cannot undertake key functions. O'Neill does not allow Parliament to debate national policies and issues. This present motion of vote of no confidence is an example.
Basil said the 2016 national budget has not been debated and was passed on the floor of Parliament. He raised the concerns of budget cuts to church-run health agencies and the underfunding of the Electoral Commission. Matters of PNG's annual GDP growth and the LNG projects were also questioned.
The Prime Minister boasts of 9% annual GDP growth is a Giaman Tok Tok. Papua New Guinea's annual GDP growth is not 9%. Because they are not transparent with our economic figures.
In response, the leader of government business, James Marape, told the House that they have reduced spending on non-essential areas and 90% of Alatawa Code commitments have been achieved.
Papua New Guinea must all rally up, and leaders on this side of the House knows the importance of political stability. Right in the face of attracting Papua LNG, we are committed to providing that stability. That second LNG project is an 18 billion kina project, Mr. Speaker. Will create 13,000 new jobs, as you ask for, because that goes directly towards ensuring the economy grows. The reality is our government, Mr. Speaker, led by Peter O'Neill, is managing the economy. We have reduced spending. Talk about stopping checks. We have reduced spending. And that is not a secret thing to do. That is a tool of government. That is a tool of government. We reduce spending on non-essential areas.
In light of the recent unrest by students, Basil said there was lack of Parliament debates on these issues with no constructive answers given to the public. Pasenata Yama, National EMTV News.
Members of the opposition were clearly disappointed with the results of the vote of no confidence. At the media conference called immediately after Parliament, the MPs expressed concern about the country's economy and overall well-being. Leader Don Pollier said the opposition would provide alternate solutions to issues currently affecting the country.
Members of the opposition were quick to call a conference to review the events that unfolded on the floor of Parliament. Opposition leader Don Pollier said the vote of no confidence was a minor battle and that the opposition remains focused and will look at alternate solutions.
What you saw on the floor of Parliament today is just a minor battle. We have lost a battle, but we will win the war against what is destroying this country and the country's economy.
Governor for East Sepik Province Grand Chief Sir Michael Somare said his concern was the UBS loan.
And I cannot imagine out of 200 ships, 250 ships I think, have taken our oil and gas out from our country. I cannot understand why we have not been paid the money.
Governor for New Ireland, Sir Julius Chen, shared the same views.
The finance minister started to preach the gospel of we know how hard it is. I don't think he knows. I don't think he knows how hard it is.
Many of the opposition MPs said they weren't given enough time to debate and raise their specific concerns.
Speaker should have recognized me and allowed me to debate. It's a special parliament sitting for a vote of no confidence to be introduced, debated, and voted upon.
I will not entertain any more point of orders, unfortunately. A question has been put, and the Parliament agreed that we move on to the motion. Yeah, and that was done.
Member for Sumka, Ken Fairweather, said now that Parliament has spoken, everyone needs to return to work, including pilots, doctors, and everybody else.
Okay, the Parliament has spoken, and we should recognise that. We must get back to work. The economy is in a bad way.
Deli Waigeno, National, EMTV News.
Members of the public outside the parliament today responded negatively to the result of the vote of no confidence. Majority of the people our crew spoke to said they were disappointed because their cries for a change in the government were overlooked by their respective members of parliament. Most of the people who gathered outside the National Parliament gates arrived there as early as 5 a.m. today.
Some of them were able to witness the vote of no confidence firsthand, while others learnt of the results through radio stations. Most of them said they were disappointed. Amongst the frustrated people, a teacher based in Wabeg raised concerns on the correct procedure of the rule of law that is practiced in Papua New Guinea. While admitting that the O'Neill Dion government has invested in the development of infrastructure in the country, the teacher says the Prime Minister's action to refuse to step down is a disrespectful act.
I'm making good a person. At least some currency come give him. Now some changes he come up me look him. He go back long rural life instead of electorates. He come also those cities, especially law, health, education, infrastructure. But because something me looking Muslim Peter O'Neill, considering this like constitution. Mama lawyer.
Similar concerns were raised by other members of the public. Even before the vote of no confidence was declared, people walked out of the Parliament House disappointed.
One bell too much.
No.
The declaration of Peter O'Neill to remain as Prime Minister means the only way to change the government will be through polling in the national general elections in 2017. Tekla Gunga, National, EMTV News.
Following the government's win in today's vote of no confidence, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of PNG and Solomon Islands have appealed for all Christians to pray for leaders that God may give them wisdom to lead the country to its destiny. General Secretary Father Victor Roche says democracy must be upheld to allow the government until the 2017 national elections. Father Victor said the decision must be accepted with the rule of law to take its due processes. Coming up after the break, the day's other stories. Welcome back. Friends of the Museum is a group formed 4 years ago to promote the work of the National Museum. Its work to protect PNG's heritage faces many hurdles. However, the work is as important as other sister organizations around the world that do the same. Among those who gathered for an event yesterday was patron and wife of the Prime Minister, Linda Babau O'Neill.
The visitors and their families were welcomed by glowing lights along the footpath into the gallery and entertaining song performances. Patron Linda Baba O'Neill and Museum Director Dr. Andrew Motu were present to welcome the members. After minutes of chatting, guests were then led into the museum for the official presentation. Elaborating on the significance of the museum, Director Motu said the intention of the Friends of the Museum is to help raise money, advocate and promote the work of the museum. Friends of the Museum was established 4 years ago under Section 4 of the National Museum and Art Gallery Act.
By 1987, the government decided to give us an added legislative responsibility, which is the enforcement of the All Service Material Act.
It is a registered entity with the Investment Promotion Authority guided by its constitution and has 7 council members. They are Ms. Linda Baba O'Neill, Dr. Jane Mogina, Gideon Kakapin, John Kasap-Walova, Sylvia Pascoe, Catherine Johnson, and Dr. Andrew Motu. Board of Trustees President Julius Violeris said in metropolitan cities around the world, including PNG, there are many organizations that are friends of museums.
In many of the metropolitan centers around the world, there are community organizations which call themselves as Friends of the Museum. Major museums also benefit from generous endowments and philanthropic support from the support organizations such as the Friends of the Museum.
Friends of Museum, alongside the trustees and management of the National Museum and Art Gallery, help to promote the work and development of the museum they are attached to. Eric Arupma, National EMTV News.
Families evicted at Kemerek Street in Port Moresby say the eviction is illegal at this point in time because the eviction is still being challenged in court. However, yesterday, officers from the National Housing Corporation have visited the site to put up a temporary fence. Most evicted families had left the site, but those that have nowhere else to go are still camping at Kemerek.
Kemerek is an old community in the Moresby South electorate. Most families that lived here migrated to Port Moresby in the 1980s. It has an estimated population of 1,000 people. The residents were evicted yesterday following what the National Housing Corporation say was a court order. However, Kemerek residents argue that a verdict is yet to be handed down by the Port Moresby District Court, and they were not served a warrant of eviction.
I'm stabbed lokot na all working eviction na mo chetlo wanem lo na mi plano all bi tok sawen na mi plano rights plo yimi na all sumatin na all beginning lo yimi mo the problem na mi plano all gera all no way logo na mi plano sleep lo side stop.
This used to be the housing estate for the National Housing Corporation. It once housed over 15 families, most of whom are public servants. According to the NCD Health Division, this place was condemned in 2014 and categorized as an unhygienic environment for people to live in. However, the families continued to live here until the eviction yesterday. NHC has plans to develop this area, but at the moment have refused to announce their plans.
Yes, actually we do have plans. That's why we're carrying out this exercise. All this place will be demolished, cleared, and then get into designs for our new project, which we cannot disclose at this point in time.
It is understood that 3,000 kina was given to each of the families that lived in the 15 NHC houses as funding assistance to move their properties out of the houses. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
The Busu Secondary School in Leh farewelled their former principal Betong Bega yesterday. Bega began his teaching service at Busu Secondary in 1992 and retired in 2011. The status of Busu Secondary was brought from high school to secondary school under his administration.
Students and staff of Busu Secondary School in colors green and white farewelled their former principal Betong Bega and his wife and senior teacher Munanke Bega yesterday. Bega was transferred to Busu High School then in 1992 from Bugandi Secondary School and retired in 2011. Under Bega's administration, the school status of Busu was brought from high school to secondary school.
He was the man behind to say, go, go.
get all those things so that we can get ourselves ready for secondary stages.
The current principal for Busu Secondary, George Noble, together with his students and staff, organized a reception farewelling Betong Bega and his family. Gifts, local fresh food and cash money were given to Mr. and Mrs. Bega as a token of appreciation for the long service at Busu Secondary. Principals Chris Raymond from Lay Secondary, Tony Gao from Bugandi Secondary, and George Noble from Busu Secondary acknowledged Bega with a salute as a former chairman for principals in Morobe Province.
We're thankful for a gentleman who has actually given all of what he can give to the purposes of education and education, especially for Busu and Morobe.
The farewell ended with emotional greetings by Mr. and Mrs. Bega, the students and staff of the school. Mr. Bega says he has confidence in the school and believes the school will prosper only under proper management of the administration.
If your administrators look after you well.
During Mr. Bega's service in Busu, he had laid the foundation for Busu Secondary by bringing the school status from high school to secondary school, upgrade infrastructure development, and initiated the peace process in 2008, One Busu No Grouping, which created a conducive environment for teaching and learning. Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Lay.
And now looking at our finance news, the Kina opened unchanged at $0.3160 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.3085, $0.4086 Australian dollars, $0.2767 euro, and 32.34 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee and cocoa closed lower, while copra closed the day higher. Crude oil closed higher, while oil palm and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 36.02 points lower, the ASX closed at 20.60 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 20.67 points lower. You're with National EMTV News, stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Welcome back. Security was tightened in most parts of Vientiane on Friday ahead of the 49th Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN ministerial meetings, which are being chaired by Laos this weekend. Foreign ministers and delegates from Southeast Asia and other countries are expected to discuss regional and international matters in preparation for the Leaders' Summit in September.
Laos is the current chair of ASEAN and will be hosting a key security meeting in capital city Vientiane later this month, at which the South China Sea is expected to dominate discussions. China says it has widespread support for its rejection of the case, but many countries have stuck to cautious comments, calling for the peaceful resolution of disputes in the region and the need to follow international laws. Laos is the least developed country in the 10-nation ASEAN bloc. China and its landlocked neighbor Laos have increasingly close political and economic links. Vanessa Knight, EMTV World News.
Representatives of the U.S. movement Black Lives Matter met with activists in Rio to address police brutality in Brazil ahead of the Olympic Games. Tomorrow, members of the Black Lives Matter movement will march with local civil society groups to mark the anniversary of the 1993 Candelaria massacre, in which 8 young people were shot dead outside a church in downtown Rio.
The victims were mainly children who had been living on the street, and most of the perpetrators tried were policemen. Only 2 of the several tried were convicted.
They're learning about Olympic construction costs and dirty water and Zika and crime, but I want the world to know about the horror that is police killing citizens as part of Olympic preparations.
There isn't an understanding in the U.S. generally about how widespread the police violence is here. Yeah, when we think of Brazil, we think of beaches, we think of the Olympics, Carnival, and even in learning about the favelas, we hear about the poverty, but not about the police murder.
An Amnesty International report that came out in 2015 found that nearly 16% of total homicides registered in Rio in the last 5 years took place at the hands of on-duty police officers. Melissa Gaviro, EMTV World News.
In the United States, delegates attending the Republican National Convention awarded high marks for Donald Trump's acceptance speech on Thursday that many felt would propel the Republican nominee to victory over Hillary Clinton in the November 8 presidential election. Trump's 78-minute speech was interrupted repeatedly by cheers and chants, whoops and hollers by the enthusiastic crowd of delegates in Cleveland, Ohio.
Aaron Freeman, a delegate from Indiana, said Trump laid out a compelling case for what he sees as the missteps of the Obama administration.
And we need change. I think he laid out a compelling story for the last 8 years and a huge missed opportunity that this country has had, and that we got to set ourselves on a different direction or this country cannot survive.
And the Reverend James Henderson, an Episcopal minister and a delegate from Alabama, said Trump's speech demonstrated his concern for social justice.
Well, throughout there was an underlying concern for people, and for me as a minister, that's an acid test. Does he love people? Does he love our country? And it's clear that he does.
In Cleveland's public square, not far from the area where Trump was delivering his speech, protesters who work in the medical field demonstrated against the Republican nominee, holding lighted signs and chanting, "Donald Trump has got to go." There were just 23 arrests over the 4-day convention that came to a close yesterday. Authorities had prepared for as many as 1,000 arrests each day. Vanessa Knight, MTV World News.
True Kai Sports is next. We preview Hunters game this weekend and Rugby League in Bougainville. Don't go away.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome to True Kai Sports. The SPPNG Hunters play host to the East Tigers this weekend at the National Football Stadium. Coming off a devastating loss to the Redcliffe Dolphins in their Round 19 clash, a change in atmosphere when they play in front of a home crowd might just be what they need to bounce back.
Hunters coach Michael Marum believes the Hunters will need to strengthen their defense in this weekend's clash with the East Tigers after last weekend's defeat to the Redcliffe Dolphins. Coach Marum says the loss was due to minor errors which he believes they have ironed out and worked hard at to avoid at training this week. Marum has picked a similar side to last week and is adamant that the team will be able to perform to his expectations. There have been changes to the lineup with Wartovo Puara named at halfback and young Silas Gaune will be coming off the bench with Warren Glare in the starting lineup. Marum is confident his players will be able to adjust as long as they stick to their game plan. The Hunters still miss a number of their players with Watson Boas and Noel Zemming still carrying injuries and will be sidelined this weekend. Dion Kombeng, National MTV Sports.
The Bougainville Rugby Football League has been revived and full swing into matches. President Robert Critchley says the management is now focused on developing the code in the autonomous region.
There is hope for the Bougainville Rugby Football League. The new management, under the leadership of President Robert Critchley, the code was revitalized.
Get it up and running again, which we've done successfully, and having a more transparent and more honest executives, presidents and management running the comp. We budget things properly. Now we're just struggling with getting sponsorship. We've had little assistance from some business houses and from some league fans, so that's kind of kept us running for now. So my plan for this year is just to lay down the foundation for next year, because we're trying to get the interest of all the players back again into rugby league, tell them the rugby league is still alive.
And the code will be brought to another level with a brighter future.
At least they have some sort of future playing for Gurias or playing for Hunters. And I've been working closely with the New Guinea Islands director, who is also based here in Buka, and he's been helping me a lot.
According to Operations Manager George Keller, the future of Rugby League looks promising with the participation of many young people.
I totally believe what we are going through now is a progress that we believe Bougainville Rugby League will go a long way.
Meanwhile, matches are held every weekend at the Hujana Oval in Buka. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV Sports.
Meanwhile, the Bougainville Rugby Football League under 16 and 18 teams have been selected to compete in the New Guinea Islands trial. This was confirmed by President Robert Critchley.
To Rabaul to play in the New Guinea Islands trials there in Rabaul. We've got the club championships that our players will be going in Kimbe in the next couple of months. We've also got the Bougainville Nines being held here at the end of the year. So this year it's going to be a very busy and very interesting year.
Still to come, Singapore goes down to PNG in netball. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome back to netball, and the PNG under-21 team defeated Singapore with a scoreline of 47-46 at the Rita Flynn indoor courts this afternoon. It was the curtain raiser match for the Central Senior Tournament finals. With the likes of Jeffeth Tulapia and Boyo Pita in the PNG side, it was a tough game for the Singapore team. Dinero Sraiko with more.
The first quarter started off with PNG playing some of its spectacular skills on court. PNG mounted pressure on Singapore from the first minute when they scored 3 points consecutively. With the likes of PNG goal attacker Boyo Pita and goal shooter Jeffeth Tulapia, the scoreline was 0-9 in favor of PNG by the 9th minute. Singapore refused to be defeated easily as they came back stronger, and the scoreline was ironed out 9-all by the 10th minute. By the end of the first quarter, the scoreline was 10-11 in favor of PNG. Despite losing Jeffeth Tulapia in the final quarter to a minor injury, the PNG girls brought the game home with a 47-46 win. They will play game 2 of the friendlies tomorrow at 4 p.m. Dinero Sraiko, National EMTV Sports.
2016 has already been a busy year so far for Netball PNG, with their new facility fully functioning and the Port Moresby Netball competition in full swing. Netball PNG now has plans to go one step further to introduce a Netball Super League before the end of 2016.
Netball PNG's plans to take the level of netball played in the country to greater heights and to improve the standard of the code in Papua New Guinea.
We intend to take a high performance program to another level with the introduction of a Super League before the end of the year, the launching of a new Super League before the end of the year, which gives rise to high-level competition, and for our targeted squad members, both in the juniors and in the opens, we want them to play in a separate competition to the annual events that we have domestically, and I think we'll use that as a springboard to really elevate our performance, not only in PNG but at the regional level and international level.
With the under-21 Singapore netball team in the country to play PNG's under-21 netball side, PNG Netball is using the opportunity to create a partnership with Singapore Netball to create avenues to develop the sport in both countries.
I think it's important to note that we've established this relationship with Singapore Netball, and we are trying new ways of a partnership program with them for the sustainability of netball in both countries. I think that's the key message that I wanted to bring to inviting the under-21s here. This is the first time we are having conversations about junior development for both countries. We've always focused on open squads, but this time it's the sustainability of the sport. So we're excited about this partnership between Singapore and Netball Papua New Guinea. So this 3-day event is the beginning of a long-term relationship, I think, in that space.
The board and management of Netball PNG are satisfied with how netball is taking off, not only here in the nation's capital, but throughout Papua New Guinea as a whole. Dion Kombeng, National EMTV Sports.
And that ends True Kai Sports. We'll have the weather details when we come back.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
Your weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region, mostly fine in Port Moresby, Naru, Alotau and Popondetta, a shower or two in Kerema. In the Momase region, few showers in Lae, mostly fine in Medang, a shower or two in Wewak and some showers in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands, some showers for Lorengau and Buka and a shower or two in Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, some showers, then morning fog areas for all centers. Forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours are strong wind warning, currents for all coastal waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Naru to Kiwai Islands to Kerema to Yule Island to Hood Point and also western waters of West New Britain, including CRC Islands, Dampier Strait and Finchafen through Vitia Strait to Long Island to Medang, Karkar Island and to Bogia and Manus. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Naru to Kiwai Island to Kerema to Yule Island to Hood Point to Samarai Island and with waters of Manus and its western group of islands. Seas 2 to 2.5 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands with waters of Samarai Island to Cape Fogel to Finchafen with waters of Bogia to Wewak to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border with waters of New Island to East New Britain to Bougainville, seas 1 to 2 meters. Waters of Finchafen through Vitia Strait and Dampier Strait, CSC Islands to Long Island to Karkar Island, Medang to Bogia, seas 2.5 to 3 meters. Waters of West New Britain, seas 2 to 3 meters. Your ocean forecast for PNG areas in the coral seas, seas moderate to rather rough with southeast winds at 20 to 25 knots with gusts. In the Solomon Seas, seas moderate with southeast winds at 15 to 20 knots with gusts. In the Bismarck Sea, seas rough with southeast winds at 20 to 34 knots. In the Pacific Ocean, seas light to moderate with northeast to southeast winds at 10 to 20 knots. And that's the news, sports and weather for Friday, the 22nd of July 2016. From all of us here at EMTV, you have a pleasant viewing. Good night.